G'day guys, Neil here from Player One Sim Gear, and in today's video we're doing a quick walkthrough and a progress update on our hybrid racing and flight studio motion rig. This is based on the TR160S platform from Trak Racer using the Qubic QS220 motion system. This thing is an absolute blast to use, it's ready to go, and I'm wearing shorts, so let's check it out.
Go, 130, 3 right, opens and crest, up dip, 80, on crest, and 3 left, 40.
Okay, so in terms of positioning, I like to go for kind of a mixed formula position slash GT, kind of somewhere in the middle. So you can see I'm a little bit laid back here in terms of my torso, a little bit leaning back, but certainly not too extreme like you might see in the traditional full formula setup. My feet are up high, so you can see they're probably about level with my hips, and I think you'd probably note that my pedal mount and the location of my pedals is actually bang on in line with where my hips are at the moment, which brings my knees up to about here, which gives me plenty of room for the GT style wheel that I have in place, or actually it's more of a formula style. It's the Simagic FXC that I'm running at the moment. I do sometimes run a round wheel as well because I race a lot of V8s, and that works as plenty of clearance space for a D shape or a round wheel as well. Now this rig, as we talked about in the build video, is very much a hybrid rig, both racing and flight. And for me, flight is mostly DCS, F-16s. So you've got obviously the throttle control unit here on my right, which allows me to really easily change to the flight controls without actually having to change my setting position at all. What I sometimes do is push the seat back a little bit because I tend to fly in VR, whereas at the moment I'm racing in triples, although again, sometimes I switch into racing in VR as well. And you've got the permanent setup of the controls and the HOTAS setup here. This is a Winwing setup I'm running, permanently mounted on the rig. The only flip side is it does mean you have to have two supports for shifters essentially. What that means is you do have to climb in and out a little bit. So if accessibility is an issue for you, having a permanent racing flight rig, just be aware that it does mean you kind of have to come up and over a little bit. And I'll show you how I get into the rig in a little bit. The rudder pedals is still something I'm working on. So at the moment, I'm just using the shifter. At the moment, I'm just using a manual thumb rudder on my stick. What I will do though is put rudder pedals underneath on the footrest was always the intention. The trick as I'm finding out is finding a set of rudder pedals that are narrow enough to fit underneath the hybrid mount from Trak Racer. So I'm playing around with different options on what that's going to look like. What I may end up doing is just adding an additional accelerator to my pedals on the outside and then just using 2 accelerators. It doesn't work particularly well for me using the brake because of the different tensions between the two. So watch this space. I'll come back to you on how I solve the rudder / racing pedals problem once I play around with a few more options. Right, so in terms of keyboard mounts, over here we've got the keyboard set up. Now I've mounted it to I've done some sort of custom work here in a couple of points. And the reason is obviously the motion rig itself is all the part that moves, right? So I've tried to separate that from anything that I don't want to be moving around. The triple monitors are obviously mounted on the Trak Racer large freestanding monitor stand at the back here. That stand is obviously completely separate from the rig itself. And what I've done is I've made a custom bracket for my keyboard using just some extra aluminium profile I had lying around, and I'll show you a little bit how that looks. But ultimately, it allows the keyboard to be mounted over here separate to the motion rig, so the keyboard isn't moving around at all. You could have mounted it off the wall, or I could have had a freestanding keyboard mount as well. Either way, it's a perfect solution because I don't use the keys that much from in this position, so it works really well. It's not mobile, it's set there. There are swivel options, but the main swivel options that you get tend to be mounted onto the side of the rig. And what I wanted obviously was for the keyboard mount that was separate and not attached to the rig at all, so it wouldn't be moving. What I have got on my right hand side is I've got a mount for the mouse. And I'm going to be, at the moment I've got a small mobile mouse. That's obviously going to be swapped out for a trackball, something that doesn't move, that can be magnetically attached to this little tray I've got here, and then that will be fine, it won't move around during motion. At the moment, when I'm doing motion, what I need to do is move it over there, and I just put the mouse on the shelf next to me, because otherwise it falls off. Other than that, there's obviously the emergency stop up here for the rig. This is the motion emergency stop. I don't run an emergency stop for my wheel. I've never really thought that they were necessary, but it's really useful to have one for the motion rig, so that's attached up there. And then you can see over here, I've done a bit of a custom mount bracket for the V&M shifter that I run. I run this V&M shifter because I just love the clunky metallic feel of it. It's kind of really on brand for racing V8s. So this here is mounted independently off with another small piece of aluminum profile I had, a couple of extra brackets that I had sitting around as well, mounted onto the side. There's enough clearance there for the throttle. Allows me to change gears, really good positioning, and I can move that up or down, forward or back as I need to as well. It's really comfortable where it is. I'm super used to it, and it's pretty cool. So getting in and out is basically a two-step process. Simply step on the seat and on the footrest, and you're in. So what I did is I've added an additional crossbar into the base of the rig at the top of the frame, just to facilitate a more easier footrest when you're hopping in and out of the rig. Being a motion rig, it obviously can lift the rig up off the ground a little bit. And so when you're getting in and out, it's just really useful to have that additional step there to put your foot on, and it's obviously very weight bearing as well. It also has the added benefit of protecting all the cables and the control boxes underneath the rig and making sure that you don't accidentally put your foot through and step somewhere where you shouldn't. Guys, thanks so much for checking out our video. Please do all the usual like and subscribe stuff down below. It means the absolute world to us and really helps the channel grow. And of course, stay tuned. There's going to be heaps more content coming. We're going to be doing a full detailed review of the QS220 motion system, showing you how to install, set up and get the absolute most out of a motion system, both for racing and for flight. And we're going to be swapping out the seat setup on this rig and putting in a belt tensioner. So that's the new line of BT1 belt tensioners coming out from Qubic. They're available for pre-order right now in the link below on Player One Sim Gear. They're coming out in a couple of months' time, and as soon as they land, we'll be showing you the installation, the setup, and what, if anything, a belt tensioner can add to your rig. So once again, I've been Neil, this is Player One Sim Gear. Thanks so much for checking out our video, and we will see you next time.